get to how you actually got into Sierra Nevada or Sierra Corporation or Sierra Space. What was that application process like? I know you said you worked for ULA previously. How did you go from ULA to Sierra Nevada? What was that process like?
So I guess if you don't mind, I'd like to just expand that question for when I was in college.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working towards the end, towards my senior year, I was working full time as a co-op, full-time engineering work. And then I was also going to school, just barely full-time there. And what I did was, going to career fairs. First off, it's going to career fairs. And when you go to career fairs, you need to have a good resume. That resume can't just be like a generic resume. You want to have like applicable material on there. So if you don't have any relevant experience, you need to talk about your coursework and lab exposure that you have, and like also talk about your when you go to these career fairs, talk about your interests, because recruiters are they want to hire people that are passionate about the industry that they're going into. They just don't want to hire not super passionate, or else they may not do their best job. So career fairs, having a good resume, and the ability to communicate, research the companies that you're applying to, so that when you're talking to a recruiter, you can convince them, like, I know about your company and I know about the products that you make and the research that you're doing, and I'm interested in launching my career with that company. So and that's ultimately how I started at Saab. But at ULA, since I had some experience at Saab, it's like, when you go to an interview at ULA, you need to be able to talk about, well, yeah, I know like some knowledge about this material and these types of fasteners, and I know that you guys are making this kind of product that uses that. So if I'm welcome to join your team, I can bring this kind of experience. You guys benefit off of me. So you kind of have to tell the companies that that there's benefits of them hiring you. And then to get over to Sierra Space. It was actually interesting. Just a recruiter on LinkedIn. I think everyone should have a LinkedIn if they're in the professional field. And there's settings that you could put on LinkedIn to say that you're available for work, and add recruiters. I mean, you want to make the recruiter's life easy, so you can find recruiters and they can find you, and you can send them an email and say, like, well, first off, like on company websites, you find the job that you're interested in. It's not like they give the hiring manager the email right there, and you just don't want to like send a cold email out to like the CEO of the company. And you want to talk to a recruiter and say, I have these kind of knowledge and skills and credentials, and I feel like I'd be a good candidate for that. Do you mind if I can have an opportunity for an interview? So, but this recruiter, he reached out, and we talked, and went through a round of interview, I think with the chief engineer, the director. It was a quick 30-minute interview. I was prepared. You always want to have a list of like top 20 interview questions and have them memorized. You don't want to be like thinking in the middle of an interview, like, when was a good time or when was a bad time that I had a bad experience with a coworker. You kind of want to have a list of stories, and just follow the generic kind of interview skills. Identify the problem, the situation, and how you assessed it and resolved, or how you handled that situation. So, but LinkedIn.
No, I agree with what you said. It sounds like there was a few different things you brought up career fear. You brought up having a resume that's tailored for the specific job. Not just some generic resume. Like I said, everybody takes thermodynamics, everybody takes calculus. If you put all that on there, that's not going to make you stand out from the other 5,000 other engineers who all took Calc 1. So, and then I like how you spoke about having a LinkedIn, making sure that you're visible. You have to actually put yourself out there. I know some people get kind of lazy when they apply to jobs. They think, oh, I'm just going to put my resume out to this one company website. Or, they're like, it's a lot of work, man. You got to sell yourself, like you said. You got to have a plan. You got to do your research on the company, know the ins and outs, so that when you get to the interview, you actually sound like you're somebody, like you said, that's passionate and knows what they're doing. So you brought up some really good points. Those are all things that I did. And I always got to say, you got to attack from multiple angles. LinkedIn, network, email people. I built like a portfolio website for myself.
And like Dr. Green, part of I think she does like fluid classes, but she said, you need to be professional about that. You can't just like type like the way that you text. You want to be professional industry. You can't just like, hey, call them by their first name and their first encounter. It's like you want to be formal about it. And also another big thing is kind of a way to show that you're passionate about the industry is you do hobbies on the side. Like you did the Formula SAE. There's like rocket clubs. There's Build to Fly. Different clubs that you could do even side hobbies. I mean, I have I do like woodworking. I use tools. I use the CNC, part of a maker space, on the side building stuff, because that's like my passion. So when a recruiter or even a manager, a technical manager that goes to these career fairs sees someone who's passionate, they're like, I want to hire that person because that person's going to work hard and they're going to make me money and they're going to work.
They're going to make me. That's very true. That's very true. That's a really good point. What do you think made you stand out the most as a candidate for, I know you said the recruiter reached out to you for this position. What do you think, what skills or qualities do you think made you stand out the most? Sorry, breaking up.
What stood out the most? Okay.
I think you're good now.
Okay. What stood out the most was I think I had interest in the stuff that they were doing. So CAD modeling, I really enjoyed CAD modeling. I enjoyed automotive work. I enjoyed working on the motorcycle that I had at the time. Very hands-on. Very interested in learning more. So it's just, if someone's passionate about their field, they're gonna kind of retain the information, and then during a conversation, they can easily talk about it. So I think these kind of side interests and my ability to retain some of the skills that I learned in college, I think really helps. So I think it's very important to learn all of those fundamentals that you learn in school, because if in an interview you get asked this, the ability to just regurgitate, not get too much in detail, but talk about it openly, I think is very important.
That's a good point you bring up about if you're passionate about something, it makes it a lot easier to remember. So when you're in the interview, it's a lot more natural and fluid. And people can sense that. People can feel if you're being kind of phony or rigid, or you know what I mean? So it really is important that you pick a major or an industry that you truly are passionate about, because it'll show at some point.
Yeah.
Now getting into one of my favorite parts, I like to do the whole reality versus expectation. You know what I mean? We all had at least I did when I was in college, I had a vision for what I thought the industry would be like versus what it actually was. And there's a bunch of memes out there about, what engineering is like in our mind versus reality. But I want to hear your perspective. Like for you, how does the industry differ from academia? And overall, just how did your expectations differ from reality as far as what a mechanical engineer would do?
So I guess in terms of, excuse me, what I expected coming out of college was, the stuff that you do in college. You're sitting at a desk and you're kind of like stressing out. You're kind of taking these formulas and putting them into Excel. And there's like, you have these strict deadlines. You're going to be pulling all-nighters, and like there's no excuse. I mean, some of that kind of is true, the deadline, but everything is not so much like it's not as like stressful and like just it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I thought everyone was gonna be like super professional about everything, and it's gonna be like a bunch of professors in the office.
Me too.
And it's not like that. I mean, you have people coming in jeans and a t-shirt. One guy I saw in the office, he was wearing flip-flops. It's interesting. Everyone's kind of knowledgeable. You're not really like, you're not so much also in terms of like tools, you're not recreating the wheel. So that a lot of processes and tools that you can use, so you don't have to keep typing in the same formulas into Excel. And even then, like, in Dr. Davidson's class and even senior design class, all good classes, even thermodynamics and fluid dynamics and all of that. But, you're kind of studying these systems, how they interact all together, and you're calculating at each step, you're calculating something. And you don't necessarily do that, at least not you're not always doing that. A lot of times it's like you're in the swim lane, you're focusing on this, and then you take the design and you pass it off to this person. This person is like doing the structural analysis, but you kind of have to know what the other person is doing as well. So you might not be doing like thermodynamics for your career, but it's just like you need to understand principles that they're doing. So it's like, I don't know. I think I built up the industry to be a lot worse when I was in college than it actually turned out.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's very
So
chill.
yeah,
Strict
I
deadline
agree.
and everything, but you enjoy it. It's not like you're staying up with like bloodshot eyes trying to solve something.
No, I totally agree with you, especially the comment you made about I thought it was going to be super like you said rigid, like professors and people that were super like I don't know, theoretical, and
Yeah.
everything had to be exact to a science, a number. And you realize the industry isn't like that at all. Especially when especially if you're in a healthy work culture, you're gonna have people there where you have the technical work, but you also have people, you have normal conversations where you talk about movies, sports, and things like that, and it's more laid back than I thought it would be.
Mhm.
But for it sounds like you're in a position where you actually get to use technical skills. I know some people really complain about how they don't feel like they're using what they learned from college. Like, I mean, you're using CAD skills. I use CAD too, but I'm not a CAD designer. I do more. I do design changes. So the CAD model already exists. I'm doing floor investigations, GD&T updates to existing drawings, CAD model. Little nuanced things. I might shift a hole here or there, and it's good for me to for somebody who's getting into the industry because now you learn because I'm a liaison and I work between different departments. I'm learning how everything actually comes together and like the sort of how design like the miscommunication that happens between design and manufacturing. And now I'm seeing like, oh, okay, you can design something, but if it can't be built, you're giving manufacturing a headache. So it's like now I'm saying like you got to be able to think like you said from everyone's perspective, even if you're not a structural engineer, you have to consider when I'm designing this part, like, is it like, you have to maybe do some rough hand calculations. Say, will it fall within the margins that are good for this aircraft or this rocket ship? So it sounds like you're in a really unique position. Do you actually do hand calculations for yourself? Do you feel like you use any fundamental math or equations at your job?
Yeah. There's very like basic like kind of a sizing the system, kind of figuring out how many fasteners you kind of want to use, the types of fasteners, the cross-sectional area. You can do simple shear calculations. You, I do use there's a handful of hand calculations that I actually do. But I mean, it's I wouldn't call it a unique situation because like on development programs, it's really nice if you can do the CAD modeling and do some preliminary sizing because sometimes there's not always a strength analyst like ready to do
Mm,
full strength
mm,
analysis. So for you to kind of speed up the processes by doing a hand calc, and I mean, I believe I have some friends that work at like Blue Origin. They're Jeff Bezos' launch company in Washington. Part of their
yep.
interview, part of their design engineer requirements is that you need to be able to do some hand calcs. They want design engineers to at least be able to do some type of analysis.
Hmm.
And then once they like size their system, design and everything, then I believe they pass it on to like a senior engineer who can either do further analysis or like validate that it's good or not if there's enough margin of safety. So
Okay.
being able to like model stuff and also being able to understand or do some of that analysis, extremely beneficial. Like that makes you in my opinion, a really good mechanical engineer.
Mm, mm. Do you feel like the skills from academia translated well for your job, specifically your job?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you
Mm,
like the dynamics folks. And when I say dynamics, they deal with like vibrational the modes and how stuff is going to react and vibrate around in the vehicle. The ability to understand, like, yeah, I know what a mode is. Like, yeah,
yeah.
this plate has a huge battery on it and it has like a heat sink under it, and it's like vibrating at this, and there's like another structure, and it's vibrating at this mode. You don't want them to collide. So I think if you can connect the dot, like peace, academia to industry, I think that's going to make you a really good candidate for a job.
I agree. I agree. Was your first job at what was it, Saab? You said
Saab in Syracuse, Saab
Saab
Census.
and Circuit. Were you a mechanical engineer there as well?
Yeah, so I did a couple of co-ops and internship. One of them was like project engineering, where it was more like, excuse me, where it was more like installation and the build process of that and managing multiple subcontracts. But the majority of it was, mechanical design of a radar system. And, you're not, they don't really tell you this in school, but these huge corporations, they sometimes contract out to a smaller company for them to design finish up the design on smaller installations. And that's what I was doing. I was working on the radar system, use SolidWorks. And then when I came to ULA and aerospace, it was NX. So rapidly learn new software.
Because every company uses different one. Like my company uses Creo. They're all pretty much the same in terms of the functionality, like what they do, extrude, cut, all that stuff. But in terms of the buttons and the layout, usually was different. But that's awesome, man. Do you feel like the difficulty for, did they give you more like, because I know you said your first job, so you sound like you've been in a mechanical position for the majority of your career, mechanical design. Do you feel like your responsibilities have escalated in terms of your design skills and what they expect of you? Just in terms of, I guess, like, I know like when you first come in at an entry level engineer one, that you may be doing only like design changes. You may not be doing CAD model updates or actual structural design. Do you feel like you progressed in that way, or do you feel like
Definitely.
you came in?
When I started, I was pretty much recreating parts, and then slowly moved on to making changes, and then it moved on to that was creating small parts for the radar system. But then we'll go to ULA. It was was working on Atlas and Delta and doing changes for them. So still not so much holding your hand, but you're given an assignment and you need to do those changes with kind of with low oversight. And then you start going on to a development program, and they expect you to be more self-starter, self-motivated, doing that. And eventually, after they give you a project, and then you say, I know what the requirements are, and I know these designs already exist and they work, and I think I can create something. So as you progress in your career, you should be getting fewer and fewer oversight and supervision. And right now it's like, excuse me, the allergies. Now it's more like they give you a task, like this subsystem needs to get released. We want you to look at the requirements. We want you to design something. We want you to work with all these different teams, and we'll have different like follow-up meetings periodically to touch base on the status and see where you're at, see if you need help. So it's a lot more minimal supervision, and they expect you to take on more responsibility. So ultimately, that's how you get to the next level. That's how you get more pay. That's how you feel more satisfied about yourself.
Wow. That is cool, man. I mean, that's really cool, man. That's honestly, you're doing more of what I envisioned I would be doing. Do you feel like do you feel like Tony Stark? Do you feel like you're doing things that
are those guys are definitely not. I just I see myself as I try not to look at that kind of like assessing yourself. Just try to look at the bigger picture. Try to look
no,
at.
of course, I'm just joking around. But overall, how would kind of closing out? How would you rate your company in terms of, I guess, if you had to give a rating for pay, benefits, work culture, and overall company rating? Like, how would you rate your company in terms of pay? Like, I guess out of 5 stars, how would you give relative to the aerospace industry? Out of 5 stars, what would you rate?
I mean, pay is good, definitely. Definitely, my piece of advice is this is an interesting thing. Colorado is, I think, the only state that for some reason there, it's like a law that if you're going to hire, post a position, you have to post a salary. So a lot of companies
Oh,
don't like to post salaries, which is interesting, even though they have a salary range. So Colorado, you can look up like what a mechanical engineer makes and look at the salary and figure that, you know, HR, based on your experience, they're going to give you about midway, and they're going to, if you have like these super skills, they're going to give you a little bit more, but they're going to kind of give you in the middle. So if anyone wants to get like an idea of that, you know, there's also glass doors, but look in Colorado State. And obviously the cost of living here is a little bit different than like Alabama. So salaries were a little less over there.
mm,
But also, so yeah, pays, you know, pretty good. And then like your benefits, you know, don't fear when you graduate college, you won't have any insurance if you have a job. Most companies, they offer, you know, healthcare, different types of plans. And then, you know, your retirement, always put aside some money for retirement. If it's a fairly decent sized company, they're going to match what you put in up to a certain percentage. So they'll give you, take care of your retirement, you know, your health and benefits. But overall, yeah, I like Aerospace is I think a really good company to work for. I prefer small or medium sized companies.
mm. I think I do too. I think I do too. But since we're engineers, if you had to give a number out of 10, what would you rate the company overall?
Overall, well, video is going to get published. I don't know if my colleagues will see it. But overall, I would say I'm 8 or 9. I'm
Wow,
pretty content about the company that I work for.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. We're closing out. Do you have any words of wisdom for aspiring engineers?
Um, Words of wisdom is retain your fun. Just because, you know, you're at school and you think that you're learning like really like simple stuff, it's not just like, you know, calculations that and free body diagrams that you're learning. I mean, you're learning like real world applicable material. Like every system, I can only speak for aerospace system, mechanical system, but all the systems can be boiled down to just a collection of free body diagrams. So like you're learning in school is like the fundamental, and then when you get to the industry, you're just going to keep building on that. So learn as much as you can, retain that information, even if you don't think it's applicable, retain that information, because later on in life, it could be very beneficial, and also the ability to learn. You know, try to listen, and just, you know, there's other people out there that have more experience, more knowledge, and you just have to be able to listen and learn from that. That's the biggest thing, and always be trying to advance your career. That's very important. So yeah.
That's good advice, man. I agree. Like you got to be a student of life, always learning, because the industry is always changing. All your textbooks, you know, they're always being updated. And then, like you said, what we're learning in college is very serious. Like I remember one of the things that stood out to me that you said, it was I think I used to always critique my professors whenever they would take off -2 or -1 for a small mistake on the exam. I'd be like, I don't understand, man. Like, you know, like I almost had the answer, I was close, and they were like, look, man, this is the aerospace industry. There's no small mistakes. Everything adds up. You can't make these type of mistakes. And you know, that always stood out to me because I realized, now that I work for a corporation, it is true. Like even when you're doing documentation and you're doing all your design changes, that like there are no small mistakes. What you're learning is very serious, and it really does apply. Like a lot of the fundamentals, the things we learn have built society. You know what I mean? So,
I mean,
um,
I mean, like I'm not a perfect person. I do make mistakes and stuff, and
yeah, yeah,
most people will catch that. You know,
yeah.
even like people, a lot of people can catch mistakes, but you need to be able to learn from that. You need to be able to address that on your next design, and you need to be professional about that. You know, you need to admit that
Mm,
you make a mistake, and I'm going to learn from that and improve myself
mhm.
because of that mistake. Mistakes are how you learn. So
That's true. That's very true. That's very true. You will make mistakes, but you have to be humble and willing to learn from
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But no, thanks, Ib. I really appreciate you sharing your testimony. Yeah, I'm really impressed with what you're doing, man. And like honestly, you're inspiring me because I want to get more into mechanical design position for rocket ships. So thank you. I appreciate it again. I just want to say thank
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. If there are any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. And I look forward to keeping up with you.
Same, bro. All right, guys. If you guys have any comments or questions, please leave any questions you have in the comments. I'll get back to you guys. Until next time. But thanks, bro. I really appreciate you doing this again, man. I can't